Thomas the Tank Engine. Everyone knows what Thomas is, with the brand so ingrained in pop culture, for better or for worse. But did you know that there was a feature-length Thomas movie set during World War II that almost happened? Join me as I unravel the mystery behind the movie in the failed film division by Thomas's parent company at the time, Hit Entertainment. For those not in the know, Thomas is a franchise that started in the 1940s as a series of books by the Reverend Wilbert Awdry. Around 40 years later, a television adaptation was created in 1984 by Britt Allcroft and David Mitton. The TV show was a big success, and over time, the show started deviating from the original books. This all came to a head with the release of Thomas and the Magic Railroad in 2000, which was a critical and financial flop. The franchise would be purchased by Hit Entertainment in 2003, taking Thomas in a new direction aimed primarily towards a preschool audience, resulting in the show suffering in quality. Still, the brand would continue to be a household name, selling millions of pounds in toys and DVD sales. Even so, Hit had big plans on the horizon, plans to take Thomas to the big screen. In 2007, the film Transformers would hit theaters. Based on the popular toy line from Hasbro, the film was a massive success with audiences at the time, earning $709.7 million in the box office. Due to the film's success, various toy companies would take note and plan feature films based on their popular toy lines. This included Hit Entertainment. In 2009, Hit would launch a new division of the company in Los Angeles with producer Julia Pister, simply called Hit Movies. In early 2010, Hit commissioned 4 Rip-O-Matic pitch trailers for each property they wanted to bring to the big screen. These properties included Thomas, Bob the Builder, Barney, and Angelina Ballerina. Each trailer would borrow footage from various movies to give investors an idea of what the films would be like. These can be found online today. Out of the 4 films pitched, Thomas was the only one that gained significant traction. Pre-production began in late 2009, with Nitrogen Studios providing concept art and a CGI render of Thomas as a prototypical steam locomotive, without a face. Most likely around early 2010, Shane Acker, director of 9, signed on as the film's director, with the script written by Josh Klausner, who wrote Shrek the Third and Shrek Forever After. Will McRobb and Chris Viscardi joined the project to revise the script further. Meanwhile, Hit would partner with Weta Workshop to help supply the film's visual effects for the engines in the island of Sodor. In June of 2011, the film would officially be announced to the general public, complete with a plot summary, a release date of 2013, and a promotional poster by Nitrogen Studios. In January of 2012, Shane Acker gave an interview with UCLA, giving details about his involvement as director. It probably isn't something you imagine me being immediately attached to, this material, Acker says. I think it's really fun. A world of just trains, a train-centric world. What would that world be like? A world of trains without people. In February of 2012, the toy company Mattel finalized its acquisition of Hit Entertainment, fully taking control of the Thomas franchise. This buyout would prove fatal, as the movie would be canceled, never making it to the filming stages. For many years, information on the movie would be scarce, leaving the story, characters, visual details, and anything else a complete mystery, leaving fans to come up with their own interpretations of how the movie would have gone. Until now. During my research, I was fortunate enough to get in contact with one of the film's writers, Josh Klausner, who graciously permitted me to share details about the movie from its pre-production stages. Before getting into this, I'd like to point out that the following comes from the film's first draft, with visual artist interpretations done by Andrew Chairlord, Miss Mischief, and myself. Without further ado, here is, for the first time, The Adventures of Thomas. The movie starts with a little boy named Johnny and his father escaping London during the Blitz. They move to the father's childhood home next to a station where trains go by. During the move, Johnny discovers drawings done by his father. These drawings would be of trains with faces on them. One night, Johnny can't sleep and decides to head down to the station, where he meets Edward, who has a sign stuck in his wheels, which Johnny gets out. To say thank you, Edward takes Johnny on a wind roller coaster ride through otherworldly caves and waterfalls before they arrive on the island of Sodor, which in the movie is a separate fantasy train world with no people. Not even Sir Topham Hatt is seen or mentioned. The steam team would have been portrayed as realistic locomotives with freelance elements. Instead of the standard gray faces seen in the television series, they would have been redesigned to morph on the engine's smokebox doors and grills to make them more cool for the teen and adult audience. Edward takes Johnny to Timoth Sheds, where they meet James, Percy, and Emily, along with some new characters, including a small handcart trolley named Squeak and the oldest engine on Sodor, named Puffing Billy. In the corner of the sheds lies Thomas, who had been sitting around disused, quote, his coal unlit because he wasn't useful. Johnny lights up his fire, and Thomas returns to life. He mistakes Johnny for his father, who used to travel with him long ago. Throughout the film, Johnny travels back and forth between Sodor and the real world, telling his father about his adventures. His father doesn't believe him until he reunites with Thomas at the tail end of the movie, realizing that his childhood memories were real. On the other side of the island lies an industrial, grimy train city where all of the Diesels live. Led by a new character named Smoke, who is, quote, the biggest and blackest Diesel of all, they plot an ambush to take over Sodor and smelt all of the steam engines. Okay, real quick, remember how I mentioned World War II? Well, my friends, it's not just the setting in the human world, it's also an allegory for the steam versus diesel conflict. Make of that what you will. Soon enough, the Diesels start taking over the island by derailing the steam engines and shutting down the coaling plants in the Sodor Mountains. With the steam engines rendered useless, it's up to Thomas and Johnny to stop the Diesel takeover. They journey across various parts of the island, where they meet more new characters, including a steam rotary snowplow named Bertha who's, quote, a cross between a mountain woman and a female trucker, 4 military boats, 2 of which are a husband and wife duo, and 3 French minecarts that start a resistance against the Diesels using underground tunnels. The final climax would have involved a relay race across Sodor against the steam engines and Diesels. Gordon, who disappeared during the takeover, returns and helps save the day. The movie ends with a final shot of Thomas, Johnny, and his father riding off into the sunset. And that was The Adventures of Thomas, a very interesting way of adapting the Thomas franchise to the big screen. Given everything I've just revealed, the movie had potential with some of its concepts, but ultimately suffered the same problems the show was going through at the time. As its own thing, it sounds like a fun steampunk fantasy film. I would have loved to see something like this in theaters as a kid. But it's just not a Thomas the Tank Engine movie. And given how well loved the show is by its online fanbase, it most likely would have pissed a ton of people off, as well as put off audiences who were fans of the original TV show. What makes this all the more intriguing is how close it was to actually happening. The team behind the movie were most likely getting ready to start casting and filming before Mattel pulled the plug. There's no denying that the movie would have had a long-lasting impact on the show and brand as a whole. We'll never really know whether it would have had a good or bad effect, and maybe that's for the best. Thank you.